I'm sure many of you use or hear your children using the teenage slang going around today. Words like low-key, bet, or bruh. Well, in my family, those words don't get laughs. They get push-ups. If my brothers or I slip up, it's 20 push-ups on the spot. We'll be mid-conversation, my dad storms in like a drill instructor shouting, "Drop and give me 20!" As you can guess, I come from a family forged by the sea. My dad served in the Navy for over 20 years, first as a submariner and then as a surgeon. My uncle was part of the Navy's Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit. My grandpa is a Navy veteran of the Vietnam War. Following my family's footsteps, I've always been determined to join the military ever since I was a little kid. Over the past 3 years, I've had many conversations with friends regarding military service, and there's almost always been a clear disregard for the military as a career. I began to notice a couple of mistruths that I kept hearing. The military is too dangerous, it doesn't pay enough, and it isn't a fun career choice. But growing up in a military family, I knew those statements were false. I began to wonder, why was my view of the military so different? What was causing so many people to view the military this way? But most importantly, what can I do to share the perspective I gained from my family's experiences? So here I am today, to clarify misconceptions about the military and explain the opportunities it presents. A couple years ago, I was hanging out with a neighborhood friend named Luke. We were jogging up my street to fetch some Subway sandwiches when we brought up our future career goals. I remember asking him, "Have you ever considered joining the military?" And his exact response was, "Nah, I don't want to die." This is the most common myth that I have heard. Many Americans, including Luke, assume the military is extremely dangerous and that almost all jobs involve combat-related tasks. But this isn't true. In reality, only about 10% of military jobs involve regular combat, while the other 90% do not. In fact, the new branch of the military, Space Force, is almost entirely non-combatant, with roles primarily being engineers, operators, and technicians, allowing members of the US military to reach for the stars. The military opens the door for countless different careers, but what if I told you it can also provide financial stability? The second myth is that military pay is less than civilian pay. One day I was having a conversation with one of my peers in English class about my determination to join the military. He said, "You're going to a private school just to make as much money as a McDonald's employee?" At first, I believed him. However, upon doing some further research, I found that he was far from correct. The US Department of Defense recorded that in 2025, regular military compensation, or RMC, for the average officer was about 75% higher than the average civilian wage with similar education. RMC encompasses basic pay, as well as allowances for housing and other subsistence. To put this further into perspective, the average annual income for a civilian with a bachelor's degree in 2025 was $91,000, while the average military officer with the same degree would make $160,000 in income and compensation. Now, by a raise of hands, who here thinks joining the military would be any fun? Not many hands. This leads me to the third and final myth. Many people, including yourselves, assume the military is all discipline and no fun. However, I watched my father enjoy his military career. In his first year of joining, my dad flew planes, shot machine guns, and practiced firefighting. Later on, he had the opportunity to use underwater jetpacks, practice his American Ninja Warrior training skills, and go deep sea diving, even though he was in the medical field. In addition, active duty members can also travel the world and live in many different countries. My family was stationed in Yokosuka, Japan for 3 years, where I was surrounded by things most people only see in photos: Japanese temples, cherry blossoms, and Mount Fuji. I spent my elementary school years exploring a culture completely different from my own. I had the amazing opportunity to model in different cities around Japan, and I was even on the cover of a magazine. I spent weekends at sushi ground spots, grabbing plates off moving conveyor belts, and at night visited 7-Eleven stores with surprisingly great food. All this goes to show that the military offers much more than strict life and discipline. Now that I've clarified some major myths about the military, I want to share with you some opportunities it can provide. The Reserve Officers Training Corps, or ROTC, offers members a full ride or partial scholarship while attending college and a job right after graduation. In exchange, students must serve 4 years in the military, as well as take extra classes and physical training courses during college. The military also teaches unique skills that can be applied to other careers in everyday life. Recently, I had the opportunity to interview Jeff Janasik, the CEO and founder of InnoFlight, a company specializing in secure, high-performance space electronics and satellites. He joined the Air Force through ROTC, where he developed leadership, problem-solving, and decision-making skills that later helped him start and run an extremely successful company without ever earning a business degree. Mr. Janicek said, "The Air Force taught me a lot about starting a company, especially a company that did work for the US government." His story shows that the military doesn't limit your future. Instead, it prepares you for it. Because of the myths and a lack of knowledge about what the military has to offer, countless individuals are discouraged from ever even considering service, disregarding opportunities to achieve their dream job, serve a purposeful life, and serve their country. Opportunity, purpose, and service down the drain. And it's not just a personal loss, as military applicants reached a 40-year low in 2022. If we keep spreading these myths, we aren't just hurting potential recruits, we're hurting our nation's defense. So here's what I want you to do. The next time you hear someone say the military is dangerous, let them know it doesn't have to be. Or if anyone you know is thinking about joining the military, support them. I hope I opened your mind about the military today. Or, if anything, convince you to make your kids do some push-ups when they step out of line. Thank you for your time.